Well, it sure feels as though this is going to go down in history as one of those dark times, one of those periods that you read about in history class and you think, man, I'm really glad that I didn't live then, except we are living then. There's a real darkness, of course, in the looming threat of the coronavirus, the way it presents a very real danger to the lives of people who are precious to us, the way it's kind of invading all the spaces and all the events that we enjoy and all the things that we take comfort in and find safety in, the way it's forcing us to question just how self-sufficient we really are. But the other thing that's so dark about this is the way it's really bringing out the worst in so many of us. You know, when people are fighting in the aisles of Woolies over dunny paper, then it's a pretty good indication of just how crazy things have become, right? You've probably seen the pictures of elderly folk unable to get just a couple of things from the shops that they really need because so many of us have rushed down there and bought up everything edible in sight in a fit of panic. It's pretty dark. It's pretty depressing. But even in all this darkness and even with all the depressingness, there have been some definite bright spots, haven't there? There have been these moments of kind of other person-centered love, sacrificial love, where people have been willing to give up their comfort, give up their things, give up their convenience because other people matter. You know, these moments of people giving up their last toilet rolls for those who are in greater need. They're the kind of moments that are going viral on Facebook, and so they should. These are the moments that we need, that make us smile and go, actually, it's not all that bad. And the reason these kind of moments touch us so much is because we know that that is what real love is. Real love is not easy. Real love is not shiny. And that's the reason why we are so drawn to Jesus. That's the reason we love him like we do, because he came and served us. He came and gave up everything for us. And I can't think of a better picture of how Jesus loved us with sacrifice and service than the way he came and washed his disciples' feet. Matt read it for us a couple of minutes ago. It's recorded in John's Gospel in chapter 13. It's the night before Jesus goes on trial. The night before the innocent one goes and gets condemned. The night before the perfect one goes and gets killed. All of it on our behalf. And Jesus, he's wanting to help his disciples to understand why. Why is this happening? Why is he letting it take place? Why is this a good thing? Because it just doesn't make sense, does it? On the surface, this seems like a really bad thing to have happen. And so Jesus, he goes along and he chooses to wash his disciples' feet. Certainly not a recommended practice in the age of COVID-19, definitely intruding on the 2-meter bubble we're supposed to be giving each other. And it wasn't really a recommended job back in Jesus' day, to be honest. This was a dirty job. This was a gross job. This was the job that you would normally pay somebody else to come in and do. And I'm sure they didn't like doing it either. But Jesus did it. The master went and did what the servant normally would be asked to do. And he did it to make a point about how he was about to go and do the ultimate of dirty jobs. About how he was about to go and make the ultimate of massive sacrifices. There's Jesus. He's kind of working his way around all the disciples. He's washing their feet one after the other. They're getting very weirded out by it all. And then he gets up to Peter. And he goes to wash the Apostle Peter's feet. And Peter is like, no way, Jesus. This just does not feel right. It should be me washing your feet, not you washing my feet. But then Jesus explains to Peter why this is all going on. He's like, Peter, you need me to serve you. Peter, if I don't wash you, then you cannot be with me. Now, Peter, I'm not talking about just your feet. I'm actually talking about your whole life. I'm talking about who you are, down to your innermost being. You need me to come along and make a great sacrifice, pay a great price, do a very dirty job so that your whole being can be washed clean. Don't you love that? Don't you love that Jesus was willing to come and wash us? If you're a Christian person, he has washed you. He has made you clean. He's served you in the biggest way imaginable. If you're someone who's not yet a Christian, you're thinking about it, this can be yours. He says, come and receive this. And I love that this sacrifice that Jesus made, it has been the sacrifice that has changed our world forever. And it's this kind of love, this kind of sacrificial love, that we need to have powering our hope for the future and kind of coursing through our veins if we're going to be of help to one another in the coming weeks. This is the kind of love that we need to be reflecting in our homes and in our networks and in our villages and in our shopping centres, in our Facebook feeds. We need for it to not be every man for himself. I'm sure you remember that movie Titanic and the bad guy, Billy Zane, kind of shoving his way to the front of the queue, trying to get into the lifeboats ahead of all the other needy women and children. That kind of selfishness, you kind of look at it and go, yuck, that's horrible. But the scary thing is, deep down, we know it's there in all of us. But Jesus has gone and shown us a better way. Jesus has said other people matter. Jesus has said that caring more about others and less about yourself is the key to nailing life, to getting life right. If you're a Christian person, if your trust is in Jesus, if you're convinced that he is the reason that you're all good with God, then you have safety. You have eternal safety locked in, secured on your behalf. You've got safety because Jesus has come along and he has died to wash away all the rotten stuff you've done, all the stuff ups. He has sacrificed for you. And when that has happened to you, that gives you the power to take that same attitude out into the world. As this world starts to fall apart a bit, and to sacrifice yourself for others, to take the time to care for others, to risk your sanity, to risk your safety, to risk your supplies, because you know that other people matter. Now, this step that we've taken across the past week to choose as a church and as part of a whole network of churches in the Anglican Church to not meet this Sunday and in the Sundays following, it's a really good choice. It's a choice where we're able to make a fairly small sacrifice, a fairly small inconvenience, but we do it because people are precious. We do it because the medicos out there are telling us, we need your help. We need you to flatten this curve if we're going to get through this. And we should be more willing to do it than anybody else because we know just how precious people are. The Son of God died for the people of this world. Now, this week, we've been celebrating and remembering the life of a woman named Dr. Catherine Hamlin. Dr. Catherine Hamlin was an amazing woman and had an amazing passion, amazing skill, amazing resilience. She passed away this week. She and her husband Reg were Christians from Sydney, and they chose to move from Sydney to Ethiopia in the late 1950s to go and treat obstetric fistula patients, this terrible affliction that ruins the lives of women all across Africa. And as they were treating these women, they ended up founding a hospital, which then went on to end up founding a network of hospitals. And in the course of her life, in the course of her ministry, Dr. Catherine Hamlin has been able to serve over 60,000 women. 60,000 women and families who have been loved sacrificially at great cost to Dr. Catherine. You know, while our lives in the next coming weeks and months might be interrupted and inconvenienced a bit, Catherine's life was interrupted and inconvenienced for 61 years. But she never saw it that way. For Catherine, this was not an inconvenience, but this was a joy. It was a joy because all of this sacrifice was powered by the Lord Jesus. Now, Catherine knew Jesus, and she wrote a few years ago, she wrote this. She said, "I have sometimes been asked if these tragic cases ever test my faith. I can truly say that, if anything, my faith has been strengthened and my soul more firmly anchored to Jesus as the only one to whom we can turn. Jesus never promised us a smooth or trouble-free passage through life. He did promise to be with us, to share the sorrow and the pain." Jesus never saw it as a trial to serve somebody else. He saw it as an absolute privilege. He was willing and happy to die for you. He was willing and happy to wash you clean, to wash your soul. And then he says in verse 14, he says, "Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet." We're going to need to cling on to and hang on to all sorts of different bright spots in the coming weeks and months. We're going to need to probably get through some pretty dark and depressing days. But let's let this be the biggest most powerful bright spot of them all. There is a God, and that God stooped down and made the ultimate sacrifice to serve you. That COVID-19 may well bring out the worst in us, but I honestly think that Jesus has the power to bring out the best.